Let us acknowledge the presence of the opposition leader of Barbados, Mr. Thorne. There is it, and Senator Brian Walters. Yeah. Mr. Thorne, people.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to Bridgetown. Good afternoon to Barbados. Good afternoon to the Caribbean. Good afternoon to the righteous people of Barbados. I see this as a coalition of the righteous. I come from the Democratic Labour Party and I bring greetings to you. I want to tell you that a few weeks ago when I made the decision that I made, but let me correct that. When I took the action further to the decision that I had made a long time ago. I had made that decision a long time ago, but I knew that timing was important and that there would come a time when I had to do what I had to do, not in my own interests, but in the interests of the people of this country, in the interests of the righteous of this country, because I had belonged to a group of the unrighteous. And I come with no apology. And I have often said, I felt at times that I would have been alone. And I want to say, Marcia Weeks, where's Marcia? I want to say, Marcia Weeks, that if it were not for gatherings like this, if it were not for shows like the Marcia Weeks show and Lamamba, I want to say thanks to you as well, and Bongo Lights, and all the voices of protest in this country over the last year. If it were not for voices of protest like yours that existed in this country, the action that I took would have been more difficult. And I want to say thank you for making my crossing of the floor and my crossing of the Rubicon a lot easier. And these marches through Bridgetown, I know that on occasions you've been a little disappointed in the numbers. Don't worry about the numbers, because Marcia will tell you that where 2 and 3 are gathered together, He is always in our midst. And you, that is why I say this afternoon, this is a coalition of the righteous. And I don't know how well you're hearing my voice, but I want to hear your voices too. And for the few minutes that I have left with you, there are points at which I will say something. And I want you to reply, we are not afraid. We are not afraid. This is a government that has thrived on the fear of people in this country. And a time has come when we don't come with a spirit of fear. We don't come with a spirit of fear. And it is because we are not afraid, and it is because you have had the courage to protest, to march, to hold your Facebook posts, to distribute your protests. You've been able to do that because I come this morning recognizing that I'm in the gathering of people who believe in the good book. Anglicans, Pentecostals, Methodists, Rastafari brethren, who subscribe to the scriptures as well. And Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. We will mount up with wings like eagles. We will run and not be weary. We will walk like this morning and not grow faint, because we are not afraid. And this government, as I said before, is a government that is thriving on your fear. Tell your friends that it is a spirit of fear that will defeat us, because this government is not strong enough to defeat us, because we are. They brought the cybercrime bill to Parliament and they thought that they had passed it. But the voices of protest in this country responded and they withdrew it. And the reason they withdrew it is because the reason they withdrew the cybercrime bill is because, and then they trespassed against the rights of your children. Your innocent little children. All you did was to send those innocent little children to school, teaching them the values that would turn them into good adults, good young people. And you and your voices and your protests made the government cancel that so-called IDB survey, and they did it because and they threatened to bring so-called reforms to the educational system that has built this country, that has built this Bridgetown, that built this square. And they threatened to dismantle that. And you and your voices of protest have caused the government to postpone those reforms until they consult properly with the people of this country. And they have postponed those proposals for educational reform because, indeed, and a lot of other things they've threatened to do, but we are not afraid. Please drop that spirit of fear. Let your numbers in this square swell from Saturday to Saturday. And tell your neighbors and tell your friends and tell your relatives that they must not be afraid. That it is fear, it is a spirit of fear that will defeat us. And I said earlier and I'll say it again, it is the government that is afraid. It is the government that is afraid of you. And the government needs to be afraid of you, because this is a government of wrongdoing. And we will meet that wrongdoing, and we will meet it successfully, because we are not afraid. And I feel a sense of duty. I have no reluctance, no embarrassment about joining any protest that is lawful, that is legitimate, that seeks to restore peace and justice and democracy in this country. I want to be here. This is a good place. I don't have to go into the high rooms to associate with the high people. Christ taught us that we must go into the highways and byways and to the unglamorous places and to support the interests of the people, because this country will not be elevated unless we elevate the people in the unglamorous places. And so I feel justification in coming to this square this morning, in the shadow of that great man, in the shadow of that great man who asked the question many years ago, what mirror image do we have of ourselves? And if we are proud people, and if we are people with self-esteem, and if we are people with pride, if we are people who recognize that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents sacrificed to build this country, what do we have to be ashamed of? And we do not come with any spirit of fear. And we will do this and continue to do this because I want to thank you for the support you've given me. I really want to thank you, Barbados, Marcia, Lamamba, Mongolites, Kimar, Caswell. I really want to thank you for reminding this country that there's some voices out there who are still interested in pursuing justice and democracy against tyrannical rule, because it is clear to you at this point that one person is running Barbados. One person is running Barbados. One person is making all of the decisions. But we come in defiance of that one person, and we come to this place this Saturday afternoon because and courage and integrity and honesty and decency will be a part of this mission of protest, this mission that seeks to remind this government that we are people too, that we have a voice too. And I end by asking you never to lose that spirit of courage. Never lose that spirit of courage. Abandon that spirit of fear. Come to this government, again I say, with honesty in your labors, with integrity in your labors, and the enabling virtue of them all, with courage. Courage is what you need. Courage is what brought you here this morning. There are times at which this event is looked down upon. It's looked down upon. But there will come a time when those who have that spirit of fear will express gratitude to you that you stood up against an oppressive government, and that you stood up and said to this government, I leave the last word with you. You stood up and said to this government,